Icono Clast came out this week, meaning that by my count, we now have 12 raid titles. I want to rank them all. Really quick though, there are about 12 hours left to go ahead and go down to the comment section and donate to the Bungie Day fundraiser. This year there's an exclusive ghost shell, shader, and a ton of emblems that you can earn down below. 12 hours left. Thank you for helping those in need. So let's go ahead and jump into this. In the last place slot, number 12, I have the Descendant title. When I was sitting down to decide how to rank these, I came up with 3 main criteria. 1, how cool does it sound? 2, was there any sort of really fun challenge associated with the title? You know, like a one-off encounter challenge or a flawless raid, that sort of thing. To me, that means that it was like more fun to chase, required me to like push myself a little bit harder to get. That's stuff that I enjoy, and that makes the title more valuable in my opinion. And then third, how rare is the title? That's probably the least important one of these by far, but it can definitely make a title cooler if fewer people have it, I think. Or if you're less likely to see it out in the world, and then you see someone with it, and you're like, oh yeah, they're a gamer. So those are the 3 criteria I went with, and because of that, Descendant is going to be my last place title. This is from Deepstone Crypt. It is the most common raid title at 250,000 people having it. And it was just like fine. I think Deepstone's an amazing raid, but none of the challenges were that fun. The one-off challenges I don't remember being like particularly difficult or interesting. And a ton of people have this one, and Descendant isn't really even that cool of a title in my opinion. So that's why it's in the number 12 slot. In the number 11 slot, we have the Vault of Glass title, Fate Breaker, with over or around 130,000 people having this, making it the 3rd most common title, or raid title at least. To this day, it shouldn't have been Fate Breaker. I'm very adamant. It should have been Fate Maker, because the quote in the raid, like the most famous quote in all of Destiny, is Guardians make their own fate. You know, it's not Guardians break the fate that Atheon has set for you or whatever. You make your own fate. It should have been Fate Maker. So it's a fine title. The challenges were fine. Pretty standard raid title all around. Not that rare. It goes in the 11th slot. In the 10th slot, we have the Garden of Salvation title, Enlightened. So this is the 4th most common title for raids at 108,000 people having it. Originally, this one was a lot tougher. When I did it and my friends did it, it required the flawless raid. They have since taken the shader out of the trophies requirement for the title, meaning you no longer have to get the flawless Garden of Salvation raid. This was the first one where that switch happened, and I personally think it's a huge mistake. I think titles, especially raid titles, endgame titles, should be huge chases for people, and it should be very impressive when people have them. And a huge demonstration of mastering these raids is being able to do them flawlessly. And you know, you can make the argument, oh, not everyone has a fire team or whatever, but you know, I've pretty much 3-man flawless all of these raids. You can 4-man them, 5-man them, 6-man them. If you're having trouble finding 6 competent people, it's not like, especially now, it's not hard to go back and 3, 4, 5-man flawless these raids. And most of them without cheesing them, including this one. So I think it should be a requirement for these. It's not anymore. Enlightened isn't really that cool of a title. It's pretty common. Stop Hitting Yourself was a pretty fun challenge, which is why I put it up. That was the final boss challenge where you had to kill 20 enemies with the platforms that the Sanctified Mind takes away. Probably the first kind of tough raid challenge, and interesting and unique one. So that does give it some bonus points, but still not the coolest title in the world. So it's going in the number 10 slot. In the number 9 slot, we have Disciple Slayer from Vow of the Disciple. Just over 77,000 people have this, making it the 6th rarest raid title. I think I would have just preferred it to just be Disciple instead of Disciple Slayer. We have a lot of these like 2-part names: Fate Breaker, God Slayer, King Slayer, Sword Bearer, Disciple Slayer. I kind of like the one word though. So especially since this one's hyphenated. Is it our only hyphenated title? I think it might be, because even King Slayer isn't hyphenated. They use it as one word. But Disciple Slayer, they're like, nah, that's 2. I think just Disciple would have been kind of cooler, even if it doesn't really make sense from like a lore perspective or whatever. I think that would have been a pretty sick title. Challenges, I remember being pretty standard. The one-off challenges, pretty standard. Medium of the road in rarity, and decently cool title. So number 9 slot. In the number 8 slot, we have the Dream Warrior title from Root of Nightmares. And this one, it has about the same number of people that have it, just over 74,000. The 5th rarest raid title. Now, a lot of people are going to freak out about this. Dream Warrior, that's the dumbest title ever. So I'm a big horror movie guy. I love horror movies. Dream Warrior, if you are not aware, is a reference to a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. The third one, in fact, which is fine. It's not very good, but it's fun. And but still, it's a reference to something outside of Destiny, which I think is always really cool. It's thematic because, you know, Freddy infiltrates nightmares and induces nightmares, kind of the same thing that Nezarec does. I think that's a really cool connection. It's decently rare. The challenges were fine. Nothing in this raid was crazy. It was pretty easy all around, but I think that's like a fun little thematic reference to pop culture. So that title is a little cooler to me. So I'm going to keep that in the number 8 slot. Next, we're going to go with Kingslayer from King's Fall. This one is the 7th most rare raid title with about 78,000 people having it. It's a pretty cool title all around, pretty standard. It's a long raid, so fewer people are going to have it just by definition. That's kind of how Destiny triumphs and raid challenges work. But it's a pretty cool title, and if I'm not mistaken, this is a callback to some NPCs calling you Kingslayer after the Taken King. I think it was Saladin in Destiny 1 would be like, Kingslayer, tell me your stories or whatever. I could have just totally made that up, but I'm pretty sure someone said that. It's just a pretty standard title, middle of the road rarity. Kingslayer's a pretty sick title though to have underneath your name, so I'm definitely giving it a bunch of points for that, and it's going to be in the number 7 slot. In the number 6 slot, we have Swordbearer from Crota's End at just over 33,000 people having this one. That makes it the 2nd rarest raid title. It is also the 3rd newest raid title though, so that definitely, there's a balancing act there. But Swordbearer is a really cool title because it is honestly one of the oldest unofficial titles in Destiny history. If you think about like when Crota's End came out with the Dark Below, people would like assign themselves as Swordbearer. Like, oh yeah, I'm the Swordbearer. I do this all the time. It was usually one person per raid group. Yeah, I just do this every time. And so while it just now became like an official title that you have underneath your name, it's been an unofficial title for a very long time, which I think is like a really neat little callback in Destiny history and lore, and people finally get to represent themselves as that. Featherlight as a challenge is pretty tough. You know, Featherlight being a unique challenge definitely helps this title. I think it was a lot of fun and had you like kind of approach the encounter in a different way. Sounds pretty cool, and it's pretty rare, and that's why we're putting it in the number 6 slot. In the number 5 slot, we have the newest rated title, Icono Clast. So this is probably a new word for some people. I think it's a really sick word. It's like someone who fights against like popular beliefs or whatever. So we are going against the Witness, who has this idea, the final shape, and we're actively like attacking that idea. I think that is a sick title, a sick concept, fits thematically into the expansion very well. It is currently the rarest raid title because it's only been available for a week. Only 6,000 people have it. I do expect it to stay as one of the rarest raid titles, if not the rarest though. Very long raid, very in-depth raid. The master mode only becomes more difficult. The challenges, a lot of them actually can be pretty difficult. The Verity one requires everyone to know exactly what's going on. The Witness one requires everyone, because all 6 people have to break a seal. Like, everyone has to be on top of their game and not die. Just a super tedious, awesome raid. And I think this title is going to stay as super rare for a very long time. So I think that's cool. I do wish, once again, they included the flawless requirement here. I think that just would have put it over the top and would have probably have made it like the ultimate raid title, in my opinion. But right now, we're going to put it in the number 5 slot. In the number 4 slot, we have Blacksmith for Scourge of the Past, or really that entire season. Blacksmith and actually all of them from this year really were kind of combinations of raid titles and seasonal titles. So this one did require you to get a flawless Scourge of the Past and do all the Scourge of the Past triumphs, so I'm counting it. Blacksmith is not necessarily the coolest title, but it plays into a really sick theme. Like, I love like the Black Armory and that sort of stuff. I hope we get to see more of that in the future. So Blacksmith plays in really well at that and kind of the origins of weapon crafting. Scourge of the Past, those challenges were decently fun. Doing like a diamond, which is the flawless challenge, was awesome. It is the 3rd most rare title at 58,000 people having it, and it required you to do a bunch of other grinding in the season as well. So I think all in all, this one is just more like comprehensive than most raid titles. more rare than most raid titles. Pretty sick name as well, with a sick reference to one of my favorite eras in Destiny lore. And yeah, that's why it's in the number 4 slot. In the number 3 slot, we have the first raid title, and easily one of the best, Riven Bane from The Last Wish. 110,000 people have this, so it's actually the 4th most common, excuse me, raid title. But it's been out for 6 years, so that is understandable. It required Petra's Run, which is incredible that many people have done flawless Last Wish. I think that's really, really cool that many people have been encouraged to push themselves to get this title. And it's kind of the reason, like, I think this is a great example of, like, look, people can do this stuff. You know what I mean? They can push themselves, they can get better at the game and learn new strategies and get better builds. We shouldn't be scared to be putting these in modern titles. But Riven Bane, a sick title. One of the first, just so much like nostalgic memory for my journey beginning grinding out titles and pushing myself in raids. Some of the challenges were pretty difficult. The Shirochi one, you know, some people don't like it. I thought it was pretty interesting how you had to change your approach to the encounter. The Vault one gave us some trouble too, where you had to stop the knights from leaving the rooms. Back in the day, we couldn't kill things this fast, so that wasn't really the easiest challenge in the world when this first came out. And of course, Petra's Run doing it flawlessly. So while it's not the rarest title, it is an absolute baller title and definitely deserving of the number 3 slot in this list. The runner-up, the second most cool title in my opinion, is going to be Shadow. I mean, come on. The lore implications, my cat's name is Shadow, so I'm a little biased. It is for the Crown of Sorrow raid and Season of Opulence in general. Once again, this was like half seasonal, half raid. Did require a flawless raid with Crown of Ease. The challenges were fine. It is the 4th rarest raid title at just under 66,000 people having it. Just really sick, comprehensive, amazing sounding title. This never leaves at least one of my characters. I always have it on. Anytime I see it in the wild, I'm like, that person knows what's up. And I just think it's an awesome title. And then what I consider to be the number 1 best raid title, Godslayer from Pantheon. I mean, look, you could say whatever you want about this, but Pantheon was perfect, essentially. There were some bugs, especially in the harder difficulties. It kind of sucks that people were able to walk around Rolk and Nezarec using a couple of bugs, and that's probably one of the reasons that it's actually the 2nd most common raid title. Over 176,000 people have this title. There are all sorts of Sherpas and going on, and there are the bugs and stuff, but I just don't even think that matters. The title Godslayer is incredible. Easily the best title in the game, in my opinion, in terms of just coolness factor. Pantheon was incredible. Really got people to push themselves. And even though it's not that rare, I think there is something to be said that for a handful of weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, a title this cool got this many people to engage with new, unique end game content. And I think that is awesome. And definitely something that's, on the flip side, should definitely be celebrated as well. So, Godslayer, definitely my number 1 raid title. Let me know your list down below. Once again, you have about 12 hours to go donate for the Bungie Foundation and to get your unique rewards. Make sure you guys subscribe. Have a fantastic night. Love your faces. See ya.